Good morning. So if Mr. Carnes and the Angel of Death and Captain Francis hasn't scared you off yet, I'm going to go over how you can find those jobs for substituting. How many of you are brand new? This will be your first year substituting with us. Only a couple. Okay. So those of you that are returning, halfway through the year, we rolled out the Frontline app. We are continuing with that app. It was successful after we got going. We did have some bumps in the road. We've kind of ironed those out now. One thing I want to let you know right away is we do not have your passwords for that. We don't store them. We can't see them. There is a forget password button on the front of that. So if you do not remember what your password is, you click that button. It sends you an email. Just like every other application where you forget your password, then you're able to go in and change your password. One other thing that I'm not sure many of you are aware of is that you have an SCPS email address. You have what we call an Active Directory account. So it is a Microsoft account that allows you to log into any machine on our campus. That's attached to your email as well. A couple years ago, about a year and a half ago now, I was involved with a project where we got rid of all generic accounts. And that was for a cybersecurity reason. With a generic account, you don't know who's on that machine and what they're doing. So if there's an issue, we're not going to be able to pinpoint who created that issue. So right now, every student, all 68,000 plus, every employee, all substitutes or employees as well, everybody has their own account. If you do not know your account, I'm going to give you a phone number to the help desk. That's 407-320-0350. You call the help desk. They're more than likely going to ask you a couple of questions so that we can verify that it's you, because you can't give them your ID to verify that over the phone. They can reset your password. They can tell you what your username is, and they can reset your password, and then you can go and change it to something that you're going to remember. They can do that from 6 o'clock in the morning until about 6 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Fridays. They're not working on weekends. So with your Seminole County credentials, again, you can log into any machine on campus, any of our campuses. Kevin, is Kevin up there? No, the other Kevin, sorry, not you. I was going to have him bring up. If you go to our Seminole County website, because I don't have a slide for this, in the top right, there is a link for ePassport. That's what's considered our portal. It's a one-stop shop. You have access using your Seminole County credentials to get into that portal. Once you're in that portal, you have access to your SCPS email. It'll be a Microsoft Office tile. It'll say Office email. You have access to Frontline, which is the application that you can log in to find substitute positions or jobs. You have access to the SCPS Insider, which Captain Francis talked about a couple minutes ago, and a lot of you were writing down directions of where to find that Rave app. That's a direct link right to that Insider. And then you have access to a couple other things. You can find paycheck information, HR information, all that kind of stuff. So that is your one-stop shop. What I'm going to do when I get back to the office is I'm going to email you, because I have a distribution list of all the subs, I'm going to email you a couple things. One is, how can you get that Rave Panic app? Some of you might not have gotten all those directions, so I'm going to give you step-by-step directions of where you can go, where you can find that Rave Panic app, download that app, what you need to do in order to get your information over to Captain Francis's team for him to enter you into the back end. So that's the first thing. That'll be in your SCPS email. The second thing is we've put together a kind of step-by-step guide for Frontline. It has the acceptable use policy in it, so you don't have to go out and look at the thousands and thousands of policies that we have in Seminole County. We've pulled out just the AUP. And that's what the Angel of Death was talking about. So anything that you have, anytime you're on any of our machines, any of our network, what you have to do in order to act responsibly, all of that's in there. How you can put email on your phone, if you have a smartphone and you want to put your SCPS email on there, because that's how we, as a district, are going to communicate with you. Yes, we might have your personal email address in some things, and if you put your personal email address for the Frontline app, I would encourage you to use your SCPS, because that's kind of work related and not your personal. Keep your personal and your work separate. But we're going to communicate via your SCPS email address. The last thing I'm going to put on there is, and I know a lot of you are not used to using that SCPS email address, but you can actually forward every single email that you get to that to your personal address. So you're not having to look at two. So I'll send you directions on how to do that as well. So you'll have to check that at least once. Then you can go ahead and take every email that you get from us and forward that to your personal if you want. So I'll send you those 3 things. Other than that, Frontline is going to be the same. There are directions on that resource page that I'll send you that you can go in with Frontline. You get to select which schools you want to substitute at, or if you want to open it up to all 67 schools, you can do that as well. Your PIN for the phone has not changed. Again, we cannot see your PIN. You have to log into Frontline and you can change your PIN, or you can see what your PIN is if you forgot what your PIN is. But you have 2 ways of getting notified for calls. One is through the web application, the other is through the phone. There is a little bit of a difference. The phone, the system starts calling for absences that are within 48 hours. So if I'm a teacher at school A and I'm putting in right now for September 2nd, it's not going to start calling people until we get to the 1st or the day before that, like 48 hours before that absence is supposed to go. But you can log in at any time on the web, and teachers are actually, if you log in now over the summer, you can start booking jobs for next year. The system takes absences 365 days out. So people can start if they have doctor's appointments or if they've planned vacations or whatnot. You can go in and start looking at August, September, October. You can look at 365 days out to see what jobs are available. I think that was all I had for Frontline. Turn it back over to Boyd. And again, I'll be up here. We can do a couple questions, and I'll be up here so that we can let everybody go that wants to or needs to. So, good question. So there is an app in the App Store. It is the Frontline Education app. That is for employees, for teachers. So substitutes do not need the PIN for that app, because that's if they're going to record an absence that they're saying they're going to be out. There is what they call a Jobulator app. Now, I caution you, that is a paid app. We are not promoting that app. If you want to pay for that app on your own, then fine. What that does is that will send you a push notification to the app, just like any other push notification on your smartphone, to say, hey, listen, there is a job available at such and such school that you are going to. So that is a paid one. Other than that, the free service is the phone call and then logging into the website. You don't need a PIN for, no, the only thing you need a PIN for is the phone. When you get a phone call, it'll say, type in your PIN. That's what you type in. It verifies that it's you. Then it'll say, there's a job opening at Sterling Park Elementary, blah, blah, blah. One of the things that we are encouraging our employees to do, which should help you significantly, is say in their recording, they can change their recording. Right now it's automated. We want to encourage them to say what grade level and what subject that it's for. The problem that we have, that was all Boyd's idea, so give him the credit. The problem that we have, that we can't do that systematically, is because with their job codes, it doesn't give a particular subject or doesn't give a particular grade. And then a lot of folks move a lot. So the other thing is we're encouraging them to do it by the phone, but then also add it to the web as well. So when they put in an absence on the web, there's a notes section. They can go ahead and say this is for PE or this is for art or music. That way you know how to address appropriately and what you're expected to do that particular day for that job. They can also add their lesson plans, so we're encouraging them to do that through the app as well, so you can log right into there. You can rate them, not necessarily them as a teacher, but you can rate at the end of your job. It gives you a little survey, 3 questions. Did the teacher leave you with adequate directions? Did they leave you with enough work? Were there any issues? You can communicate back and forth and rate them. Again, so they're not going to see that. The admin at the school is able to see that. So if they're not leaving you adequate directions, they're not leaving you lesson plans, then they can have that conversation with that particular staff member. Yes? It does. So ESE actually has a special, and we've changed this in the system. So if it is going to be an ESE, there would need to be an ESE certified sub. Yeah. Yes. There is. The only thing I can think of why that's happening, because we have different distribution lists, and if there's an all SCPS, substitutes are included in that. So we can look at possibly taking those out, but some of those messages are good information. Like when Captain Francis pushed out the Rave Panic app, there was a message sent out to all SCPS, so that you guys have that email somewhere buried in your inbox as well. So a lot of times stuff is pertinent to you, and we don't want to have to say, okay, this isn't. So we've just left everybody in the all SCPS bucket. But again, I don't want to take up too much time. I'll be up here if you have questions. I'm sorry, they might be for the group, but feel free to come on up and we can discuss Frontline. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Carnes.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, we're going to be around here afterwards, and I know there seems to be several Frontline questions, so maybe we'll just kind of come down here and we can answer some questions specific to those people that have some questions about Frontline. So I really appreciate it. Before I go further, I want to thank in the back here from the district office, Kevin Gouvier, who is taping this for us because we use this throughout the year, and we have some Winter Springs High School students up there, and Kevin Camarino is here. So I'd like to give them a round of applause because it's their summer break. So if we can go to the next slide there and kind of see where we are. And I do want to say, and they may went on break, but they may continue their summer break. But a couple things, and we'll wrap up here real quick on the school safety thing. The superintendent and the sheriff, Dennis Lima, are working very closely together, and this is a huge commitment by Seminole County Sheriff's Office as well as Seminole County Public Schools, that we have a captain in the Sheriff's Office that works directly with the superintendent in our building on a daily basis, and with also 2 other lieutenants. And all of that is about to provide the safest, most secure campus environments possible. And we can sit here all day long and poke holes through all the things that are trying to be done, but I will guarantee you this, that we are in a better place today than we were 2 years ago in an environment that is increasingly challenging for us. When our schools were built, they weren't built with this environment in mind. They were built at a time when it was open and the expectation wasn't, when I grew up, the school was a second home and people just walked in and out and but that world doesn't exist anymore. And so they're coming up behind this now and trying to take these open campuses that were built in a different era and a different climate and trying to make them as safe as secure as possible. And what Captain Francis speaks about is a non-negotiable from the superintendent. And it's going to take us some time to get to where we need to be, but when we used to have 67 or 68 different schools with their own security plans on how they were going to do things, there was no real consistency in what we were going to do. And now we've got an expert, because none of us were experts. We were teachers and principals and those things trying to think what was the best thing to do. Now we have experts telling us what to do, and there's no sense of having expert advice if we're just going to do what we want to do. It's uncomfortable. Sometimes we don't like it. Sometimes we poke holes in what's being done. Bottom line is, that's what we're going to do. And so the sooner everybody understands that, the better off we're going to be. And it's not limited to any one group. We have probably our biggest challenge is our principals sometimes on getting them to get on board with everything we need to do, but we're going to get there. The last thing I want to talk about is substitute badging, because we're still there and we know that many people would still like to be able to have one of these badges. And we have not solved that problem, because until we get to the point, you need to realize, and I want to say this as strongly as possible, and Captain Francis and I are working on this all the time, you can become a substitute for one day, and if you get this badge, we have no way of getting it back from you. There's no way for us to get this back. And so now we have the potential of having hundreds of people out there with these badges, identifying themselves and just walking onto a campus. So for this year, and we're still working on it, the schools are going to be providing substitutes their badges, make them unique to their schools so that they know who the substitutes are. On our largest school campuses, our teachers are very concerned about substitutes having the same badge that they have, because in a time of crisis, they don't know who they don't know if that person is an employee or if somebody they need to help in a crisis situation. We have 250 people on a high school campus, and if they don't know if they can't identify who the substitutes are quickly, or the people that aren't supposed to be on that campus every day quickly, then they can't provide them assistance. We're working on the opportunity to do the scanning with the barcode and that kind of stuff, very expensive. That way when people come in, they scan. If they're good, if they're good to go, then they're good to go. If they leave the system, we just delete them from the system. But we don't have that problem resolved yet, and I want you to know that we're still working on it. We know what your desire is. You've made that loud and clear. And we haven't forgotten it. We just haven't got the perfect solution. And we may never have the perfect solution, but we need to get a solution that we all feel like we can live with. So with that, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yep. Okay, so with that, yes, ma'am. Excuse me? A Raptor, okay, so we just installed last year, is part of all this. Raptor is a system where people go in and they scan their license, and through that scanning, then we get any kind of alerts if those people aren't supposed to be on campus, okay? Some schools are doing it, some schools aren't. That's the inconsistencies we're talking about, we're working with Captain Francis on. All right, so with that, we're going to be here for anybody that has any questions of us that they want to answer. If, by chance, you came in late and didn't sign in, I have a sign-in sheet for you so you get signed in. And with that, thank you all for coming, and we look forward to another great year. Thanks.